one of the things I pointed out to him was, if a plant happened to have, an injury or a fatality, no one at that point says, well, our safety program's no good.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Right.
Just because one thing happens. So
Right.
I think that safety and reliability go hand in hand, and I know you have a lot of data around that, but one point I think that gets missed a bit is in the area of emissions, where, you don't have as much releases to the atmosphere and things like that if you've got chemicals that are,
Right. Yeah, I've got data on that too. Yeah. Environmental compliance improves when you have good reliability. Sometimes it may be a matter of a license to operate.
Sure.
I worked at one plant where they were told, if you have one more release like you had last time, we're going to shut you down. So they went into reliability seriously with executive sponsorship, with teamwork, with alignment, all that sort of thing. And within about 3 years, they had reduced their significant emissions to zero. And their OEE was up about 20%, and their unit costs were down proportionally.
That's impressive.
It was really good performance.
If reliability can generate results like that, what's the downside to reliability? Is there one?
Not in my mind.
Okay. Not in my mind either. But
I can't think of a downside.
Okay.
No.
I think it ticks off all the boxes for
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Cost, safety, environmental performance, quality. We didn't talk about quality, and I don't really have a lot of data on quality, but your quality will improve if you have fewer upsets in the process.
Sure.
Without question, it has to.
Yeah. I think that goes pretty much by definition on that one.
Okay.
So if you are talking with and creating a asset management program, you're talking with a plant that's just kind of starting out or they've never had one, what's your advice to them in creating an asset management program? Sort of the business case I'm talking reliability is what I'm going after here. We've talked around some of the financials and things around reliability, but as far as the actual asset management case, care to comment on that?
Well, most of the asset management strategies that I've seen and plans are not asset management strategies. They're maintenance management strategies that have been rebranded to give them a better appeal to the board of directors.
Sure.
Give them a better flavor, a better look. They feel like it will get better reception if it says asset management instead of maintenance management. Most executives, when I say the word maintenance to them and ask them what the first word that comes to their mind is, it's either costs, that's the biggest one, or breakdowns. Well, if that's the emotional response to the word maintenance, they don't want any more of that, right? That's just intrinsic. Yeah, you don't want any more of that. Well, it's just wrong-headed. So having a asset management strategy that's focused on maintenance will not give you better asset management any more than focusing on maintenance for your reliability program will give you better reliability. It just won't happen because most of the defects that occur that result in asset failures or maintenance requirements, call it what you will, are not controlled by maintenance. They're just not.
Okay.
Most of the defects come from design, procurement, and operations. That's who controls the defects. So if you're trying to manage your assets by doing better maintenance, it's like trying to manage your reliability by doing better maintenance. You won't get it.
Yeah.
It's like grabbing a dog by the tail and trying to steer him. The dog will not enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
In fact, he'll probably bite your hand off.
All right.
So it's just wrong-headed. Now, that said, of course you need good maintenance programs. You got to deal with the defects. So you've got to have good work management. You got to have good planning and scheduling. You got to have good condition monitoring. But the key is to stop the defects that are being induced upstream of maintenance. Otherwise, you won't have good asset management and you won't have good reliability. Now, most of the so-called asset management strategies I've seen, they focus on maintenance. And the real issue here is, the first one, if I were the boss, would be, well, what is required of the assets in the coming 5 or 10 years? And how well are we performing now relative to that requirement? So if you don't know what's required of the assets in the coming years, how can you have an asset management program? You can't. You know? So start there. So go to marketing and sales, go to the the big guys and find out what do you expect for each product or for each business unit. What do you expect? Then you got to go to production and say how well are we performing against that expectation today, and look at the losses and start managing the losses. Once you assess how much you could improve on your current performance with better practices, then you know better about what the gap might be relative to future performance and expectations. Then you go to the design guys and you say, okay, we're going to need new capital and new capital equipment. So what do we need to fill those gaps to manage the assets better? And then you throw in a little bit about procurement and get their focus on total cost of ownership instead of price, because price is only about 25% of your total cost of ownership. The rest of it is in energy consumption, maintenance and repair, production losses, all those kinds of things. So a true asset management strategy is more of a business management strategy, and most of them are not.
Interesting concept on that. Yeah, I totally get that, and I agree. I find it interesting that the majority of reliability is actually implemented in the design phase of the asset management cycle, and then the majority of the cost is after the design phase when you're doing your operations and things. It seems like those two lines cross at some point, but that's a great way to think about it from a business management strategy.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget you got other assets beside the equipment.
Sure.
Right, you got people,
Yeah.
right? And you may have some intellectual property patents and that sort of thing, So, I'm really kind of put out with asset management, at least as it's currently being deployed.
Okay. What would you do to fix it?
Well, I'd do what I just described to you.
So you do the business management strategy part? Okay.
Yeah, right. That would be, part and parcel to the asset management strategy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Ron, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with me. I didn't address your other 3 books here. Would you like to take a second and just tell us about
Well, the third book is Where Do We Start Our Improvement Program? And it really uses what I call a business level FMEA. Uses FMEA principles, but gets you to analyze where your business losses are by doing some process mapping. It's described in these other 2 books, but it gives lots of case studies in a kind of an entertaining format. Okay. This one here, Business Fables and Foibles, it's 35 short stories that illustrate various principles associated with running a business, and case studies based on actual experience that I've had in working with these companies. This is a beach read.
Okay.
These other books are pretty dry. You got.
I've read them. I thought they were fascinating.
You've got to want to read them though,
Yeah.
right? This one is an entertaining read.
Okay.
And then this last one is really a personal story. My wife had a liver transplant 8 years ago. And so I wrote a story on the lessons learned in working with her to keep her alive during that period. And I wrote it to help others who are undergoing similar personal medical crises in their lives, to help them learn some of the lessons we learned without having to go through what we went through. So that's the last one.
So Ron, thank you very much for
you're
taking
welcome.
the time to come out and talk to us about this. I think I've learned a lot from you over the years, and I can't thank you enough for the influence you've been on my life. I really appreciate that. I think you're influencing a lot of people in the reliability.
I hope in a positive manner.
I think you are very much in a positive manner influencing people in this industry. And I just can't say enough good things about how our relationship has been in the last few years, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you and know you over the last, 30 years, I guess, at this point. So thank you again for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I appreciate it. That's Ron Moore, and he is a private consultant in the reliability industry.